Greetings, everyone. Welcome to MJ Hobby Corner. This is MJ, and I will be your host for this video today. Now, this is a solo war game. This is one of my solo war games, and I have something a little bit different for you guys today. This particular game is going to utilize the 1 hour war game rules, but it's going to be tweaked towards fantasy. So before I can get into the game, I have to say a couple of things of how, about the rules and how I'm changing them to be able to play fantasy. And one of the most important considerations for this game is I don't really want to reinvent the wheel. I want to use as much of the 1 hour war game rules as possible and just tweak the areas that I need to tweak to add a fantastical element to it. Now, the first step, of course, is magic. Any fantasy game, magic is an important thing in it, right? And also fantastical races, and that's what I'm going to call them, okay? So let me go into a little bit, a short explanation, hopefully as short as possible, and then we can start the game. So one of the things that I really like about 1 hour war games is the whole time period thing where each army you play is going to be modified by the time period. It's going to determine your army construction, but also what certain units can do. So I don't want to eliminate this from 1 hour war games because really this is an important part of the mechanic. So for my fantasy game today, what I did is I'm going to be redoing the little table that talks about like army construction and all the little time periods. And what I'm going to do is just insert certain fantastical elements for each time period. So for today, I'm playing Dark Ages, basically in whatever fantasy world I'm playing in. This is going to be the Dark Age of that world, right? So in this Dark Age, we have lizardmen. Lizardmen culture is now reached its peak, and by the end of the Dark Age period, the lizardmen are actually going to go extinct. So if I play a medieval time period for this rule set, not going to be able to play lizardmen anymore. Basically, there will be other fantasy cultures or races that take their place. So, but for now, I'm saying that lizardmen being very ancient race, they're around in the ancients time period of this world and also in the Dark Age period, okay? So, because I have lizardmen as a choice for these two time periods, well, I chose lizardmen because I really like lizardmen. And then orcs have just begun, the orc culture has begun really unifying, and they're still tribes, but the tribes are coming together a little more, kind of like the lizardmen, and they're just their culture is evolving a bit. So they're present in the Dark Age period and will live on into the medieval time period. They're not around in the ancients time period. I mean, they're around, but their tribes are very like separated, and so you won't be able to play like a pure orc army in the ancients time period because they're just very disorganized, they're whatever. So in the Dark Age periods, they're beginning to come together and their culture's really gaining strength. Their armies are gaining strength, and they're also allying slowly but surely with other races like goblins and hobgoblins and things like that. Okay, so basically I'm including all those races into orc culture. And so what I'm doing today is I'm playing the Dark Age period of this time world, and I don't know, call it whatever. It could be, I'm going to call it Dark Age just to make it similar to the rules, but it could be the Second Age or the Third Age of this world, whatever. I don't really want to replace it with any fantasy names just yet, right? But I am going to tweak the tables a little bit so that whenever you play a time period, it'll give you access to certain fantasy races. And these fantasy races are all autonomous from their human counterparts. They have their own cultures, their own armies, and we are going to follow the rules of Dark Age, of the Dark Age time period given by 1 Hour Wargames, as much as possible for these fantasy races as well, okay? For spellcasters, adding magic, I do have some spell cards that I already made, and these are very simple spells. Here's the orc one. It has a little like goblin dude there, and then here is the lizard man one, and you can see the little lizard dude there. And so there are some faction specific spells and some spells that come with the time period that you're playing. Okay, so these are little things that I will add later, but basically magic users will get to activate during the shooting stage of the army, right? And I don't know, maybe certain time periods, spellcasters become more important, and so they can activate in other, whatever activations the time period gives you. Every time period gives you a kind of a little bit, it gives you some rules of movement allowances, and it also gives you basically what's activating when. Okay, it gives you a sequence of play. That's the proper terminology. So each little time period is going to give you a sequence of play, and what I do to that sequence, like I did here, I just penciled in spellcasters. So during the shooting stage for in Dark Age times in this fantasy world, well, spellcasters will get to activate either before the shooters or after the shooters, or, if I don't have any archers or whatever ranged units, then I can activate my spellcaster during this sequence, okay, in sequence 2. All right, so turn 1. So what constitutes a turn in this game is one unit does all of its actions, and then an enemy unit does all its actions, and that constitutes one complete turn. So I'm playing 15 turns. So turn 1, the lizardmen are going to go. That orc army usually appears in turn 1. I set them up already so that I wouldn't have to film, then stop, then put them on. They appear in turn 1. Okay, so we're going to say they just appeared there, and I get to do my move. And this is an infantry unit, so they are going to move 6 inches. But on the road, they get an extra 3 inches. So we're going to move them an extra 3 inches and move them towards the orcs. Okay, and just move everybody up. I try to keep a 4-inch frontage. That's in the rules, but it's okay. I like playing without trays. It really helps to be able to move your figures around. you know, instead of being locked in a tray. So, all right, so my lizardmen have moved up, and now we're going to get an orc unit to move. Now, for the AI, I'm just going to use my, you know, my best judgment. So basically, the 1st infantry unit in the orcs see the lizardmen coming up. They see they're blocking the road, and so they, basically, the leader of that unit decides to charge because they want, the orcs are desperate to get out of here. Okay, they've already fought a battle. This is a routed unit. They're tired, but they know that they have to defeat this obstacle before they can escape. So that unit is going to charge into the lizardmen, and they get a 5, which means my lizardmen, the 1st infantry unit, is going to lose 5 points. They have 10 left. Okay, and down here I have my armies with all of the life points of each unit. Okay, and they're identified. So this unit, the 1st infantry unit, has lost 1 complete dice, 5 points. Okay. So a successful attack by the orcs. Turn 1 is now over. We're going to turn 2. So turn 2, my lizardmen do receive some reinforcements. One of my tank units, which is the giant scorpion, that's what I'm considering like a heavy war beast or a tank unit. And I think I'm going to put my magic unit, which is an infantry unit, but that unit has a shaman. They're going to appear right there. So I get those 2 reinforcements. They can't act on this turn. Basically, they just appear right on the flank of the fleeing orc army. Okay, so my 2 units appear. That covers my move, and so orcs are going to get to move. So again, the orcs really are bent on escaping. So during their movement, if they can avoid conflict and move towards the escape zone, which is the southern end of the mat, they're going to do that. They're going to do that first. So we're going to move the goblin skirmishers, and they move 9 inches. They get no bonus because they're not on the road, and they're going to move their 9 inches forward. And that pretty much ends their move, and that ends turn 2. Okay, so I'm going to just mark all of the units that moved. In turn 3, they're going to react to the orc attack. The units have shield wall, and so that means that they take only half of the hits that were done by the attacking unit. Any rounding is done in favor of the attacking unit. So instead of 5 damage, they're going to do 3 damage. Okay? So it's going to reduce a little bit of the damage. And again, giving the attacking unit the favor, so they do 3 instead of 5 damage. So I got to remember that for future attacks, okay? And that's only infantry. That attack, not a very good retaliation by my lizardmen, so we're going to activate them. And that ends turn 3. We're now moving on to turn 4. This is a very, very fast game. So, okay, so turn 4 is going to see the introduction of 2 more of my units, which is of course in my favor, and that 2 units arrive from the western table edge north of the wood. So basically this is my north is up here, and the mat has north marked into it, so this will be west, and this is the wood they're talking about. So north of that wood I get 2 units appearing. I'm going to do an infantry unit. Okay. I'm going to do one of my infantry units, these purple guys. A skirmisher unit right next to them. That is the second unit. And that's these frog people. Okay, and that's, I think, all I'm going to do. That constitutes the Lizard Man turn. So now moving on to the Orc turn. I think what's going to happen is the magic user, this infantry unit with the magic user, is going to see the enemies appearing on the hill, and they're going to say, well, let's at least try to stop them. We want to run, but we're going to make the decision to do a magic attack first. So they move, they turn 45 degrees, they basically just move an inch, and then going into shooting, they're going to do a spell. My two units are within 3 inches of each other, so they decide to do a lightning attack, which causes 1d6 plus 2 hits on 2 enemy units, provided they are 3 inches apart. Yikes! So the mage does his spell, and I subtract 1d6 plus 2. So let's see what this attack does. Yikes! Okay, so he rolls a 5, 7 points of damage goes to 2 enemy units, so both take 7 points of damage from lightning. That infantry unit is magic, and so what happens is they do 7 hits, but because of shield wall, it is halved to 4, including my scorpion unit, which is the last one here, and he takes... he is not an infantry unit, so he takes full 7 points of damage. So that stinks. That attack, now the lizardmen go, and then I can end turn 4. We're going to go to turn 5. And I think I'm only going to move them an inch or a couple of inches, and I'm going to hold that river, because holding that river terrain will actually reduce the number of hits that I get once those orcs decide to charge, if they decide to charge. So they're going to move there, and then I think I'm going to do a spell. With a fireball spell, the range is basically line of sight. As long as I have line of sight to them, it's not restricted. It is a magic spell, and it instantly causes 1d6 plus 2 hits on an enemy unit. So, again, another harsh spell. I'm going to put my little dice roller here, and let's see what happens. So, 1d6 plus 2. I do 6 points of damage plus 2. So, that is 8 points on the enemy orc. Because they are an infantry unit, they do take half of that, which means 4, which kind of sucks, because I would have loved to do the 8 points of damage. Now that is infantry number 2, so they take 4 damage, so that leaves them with 11 points. Cavalry unit, they move 12 inches. Now they cannot move over friendly units or enemy units, basically, because of the time period that we're playing in. So they're basically going to move as much as they can. They're going to turn 45 degree, and basically these 4 figures are the unit. And they're going to move as much as they can. They're going to move up to 10 inches, which... there they go. So they basically run up behind the skirmisher unit, and they're looking to bug out. They're not, if they can help it, they're not going to get into combat. All right, so this is beginning of turn 5. We're going to end turn 5 with one of my moves, and I'm going to go on this side or on this side. Why don't we move the giant scorpion? And he's looking for a snack. He's going to move... basically, he's not going to move like cavalry moves. He moves 6 inches, like infantry moves. And basically, he's going to do a flank attack on that unit. And flank attacks, of course, will do double damage, but because of shield wall, it's probably going to reduce that. But let's see what the scorpion can do. And it has poison, so plus 2 for the poison, plus 2 hits. So it rolls a 5, plus 2 is 7 points. It is a flank attack, so that's 14 points. But due to the fact that shield wall, it is an infantry unit, shield wall is going to have that, half that, and they're going to take 7 points of damage. And that is the magic orc unit, the orc unit with the shaman. So they have 4 life left. And so now we have 10 turns left in the game. It is the end of turn 5. We now go to turn 6. And I have one more unit entering the board. And here he is. Okay, so this unit enters all the way from the southern end. So he's going to be, actually, I'm going to put him right on the road. He comes in from the southern end, and he just came in, so he's not going to get to activate right away. I'm going to give him his little activation marker, and he's just going to basically guard that end of the road. And it's a big tyrant lizard with a howdah. We're going to end turn 6 with the orc move. So this infantry unit and this cavalry unit can move. So why don't I roll that, since it's only 2 units left. 1 through 3, it's the cavalry unit, and the infantry unit, the infantry will move on a 4 through 6. So it looks like it's the infantry unit. The battle's unfolding. They see that there's no real way of escaping just yet. So what they're going to do is attack the closest unit. What they're going to do is they're going to pivot, and that's part of their move. Here's the leader. We're going to pivot before they actually move. You can, and actually they can only turn 45 degrees, so it's not 90-degree pivot. It's only a turn of 45 degrees thanks to this this time period. And then it's about a 5-inch move. We already know that. There's no rough ground here. So we're just going to make a frontal attack. They're just going to make a frontal attack. There's no real way that they can attack the flank. What the hell? If we're going to die, we're going to die fighting. I think it's a pretty good orcish behavior. So they go into my skirmishers, and there's no magic. So we roll the dice. We do 4 points of damage. There's no other bonuses or anything like that. And skirmishers do not get the shield wall benefit, and so they do the 4 full damage. So my skirmishers, they have 11 life. So my guys are taking some damage here. All right, so that is the end of turn 6 with those orcs activating. And now I have 2 units that I can activate. I can activate my big tyrant lizard here and my other infantry unit. So seeing the combat, my lizard man leader, the leader of that infantry unit, let's see, he's right here. So he can do one of 2 things. He can charge this cavalry unit in the rear and do double damage, or he can charge that orc unit that came in to attack the skirmishers and just do the regular damage. Let's see. Actually, no, it would do a flank attack. If we look at this closely, the orcs, because of the way they're fighting, this would be a flank attack, so they can still do damage either way. I'm going to do a rear attack on the cavalry unit. They haven't taken any damage, and they're trying to escape, and they're fast, and they will probably get to escape. So my lizardman leader gives a roar and charges the cavalry unit in the rear arc. So they decides to do a rear attack. He decides that the frogmen can hold their own, and they're going to go for this cavalry unit. So it's straight double damage. Oh, look at that. I rolled a 1, 2 points of damage. Oh. Those wolves are actually more agile than he thought. So they give a howl, take 2 points of damage, but really, not really very good. Okay, so Cavalry 1 takes 2 points of damage. 13, so they have 13 left. Okay, not very good. I'm not happy with that, but it is what it is. So they have 13 life left, and that's that. Okay, I'm going to do the final unit here. Now this unit, they want to escape, but unfortunately they don't see, everything is blocked. All they see is combat in front of them. So they are going to make the decision to try and help one of their comrades. And so they decide to go to the closest unit, which is the Scorpion, and they make a flank attack on this giant beast as a way of helping the infantry unit there, in the hopes that they can reduce some of the enemy and then make a run for it. So they attack by the flanks, which is double damage, and there's no bonus that the Scorpion has for this era, this time period. And let's go to the dice roller, and they roll a 3. Now double damage, so 6. So the giant Scorpion takes 6 points of damage, and that leaves it with 5 life. So it's pretty injured. It's going to die very soon. Okay, so Scorpion's really wounded. That ends the Orc turn. They are activated. That pretty much ends the activation turns for the Orc army. I now have this dude down here to move, and my skirmishers can also react to the enemy they're engaged with. So I'm going to move him first, and he's moving on the road. He only moves 6 inches, even though he is a tank. He's a heavy unit. He's only going to move 6 inches on the road, and then he moves another 3 because he is on the road, and I think he's going to turn and take the bonus move and head towards these skirmishers there. So yeah, the skirmishers, the goblins, see this big tyrant lizard with a howdah. I'm sorry, this is gonna begin turn 8. So turn 8. So they're fighting with the orcs here, and the skirmishers attack. But now this orc infantry has shield wall, which means they only take half damage. My skirmishers rolled a 2, so those little frogs did not hit very hard, and the enemy infantry only takes 1 point of damage. 1 point of damage, because I have to round it down no matter what. So that's orc infantry number 2. I'm sorry, number 1. Skirmishers will avoid hand-to-hand if they can at all avoid it. They will, and they will do their shooting attacks and keep a distance, but they were forced into this combat by the orcs. So unfortunately, they're going to have to deal with a superior force. The goblin skirmishers see that big tyrant lizard close by, salivating and growling and stuff. So, yeah, they don't really want to engage that thing hand to hand. Plus, they're hearing their comrades and the lizardmen fighting all around them. So they decide to move, as good skirmishers would. And first things first, he's gonna... Well, he's a little bit at an angle here, so he's going to go 9, his full 9, and then he's going to do a pivot, okay, which now faces the tyrant lizard, and from the safety of this distance, they then release their missiles. They have a 12-inch range, and let's see what they do. And they get 2 points. 2 points. So basically they piss off the thing again. They piss the big lizard off again, but at least they're far away. So 2 points for my heavy cavalry, the Tyrant. And he had his full 15 health, but now he has 13. Alright, so now turn 8 is now complete, and I can put a marker on the Goblin Skirmishers. They're very near the edge of the board after having attacked the big dude here with the Howdah. So I have a choice. Go after the Goblins and prevent their escaping and have a Goblin snack, or attack this juicy target, which is the cavalry, the wolf cavalry. And if I attack that target, I take them from the rear. So that's just too much to bear, and I move the big lizard in contact with them. Alright, so Tyrant Lizard moves in to the rear of those wolves under the guidance of Little Frogman. Alright, so he gets a 6. And they only had 8 points, so guess what? The wolf cavalry is out of there. Wipe out the entire cavalry. Yes, so that frees up a couple of lizard man units. On the north side of the table, the frog skirmishers, the frogmen skirmishers, are still holding that infantry troop at bay, the orc infantry troop, despite the fact that they are facing a superior unit. They're doing well in holding them off. But now it's the orc turns. Looking around the battlefield, there are no lizardmen units remaining unactivated. So there's only 5 turns left in the game. So the orcs are going to go again. And this is going to be the beginning of turn 10. Okay, so that orc unit gets to go, and they go directly to hand-to-hand combat in the turn sequence. And they do 3 points of damage to our little frogmen. So I'm just gonna look at my skirmishers. They only had 2 points left. Wipe out the entire frogman unit. They're done. A number on the frogmen. Alright, I'm cleaning up all of the activation markers, and now as the game approaches its end, then start the sequence all over again. So round 10, and this is ending round 10. We now go, the last unit in round 10 is going to be a lizard man unit, so the salamanders are going to activate, and the little frog shaman in the middle sees his enemy across the river, but he's holding the river, and as we know, if he's holding the river, it gives his unit a benefit. So he decides he doesn't really want to go across the way to face with the cavalry there. They are a superior unit. However, reanalyzing the situation, the little shaman is not stupid. And he does see that if he orders the infantrymen, his salamander brethren, to attack, that magical unit, the orc magical unit, will be really caught in a wrench. First, the shaman can still remain in the river, holding the river, even if that unit wheels around. Also, because they have the scorpion in front of them still, they won't be able to wield around and retaliate anytime soon. And attacking from the flank, he would definitely be able to do a lot of damage. According to the sequence, so he splashes into the water with his unit, with his fellow infantrymen, and does a flank attack on the orc unit, which is already kind of tired, and, you know, his shaman did some spells already. And they're going to remain holding the river so they can get the benefit of that terrain. So the shaman, little frog shaman, orders the attack. They move. Now it's shooting or spell. He recites some ancient words in frog language, or whatever that is. He casts a spell called Thou Shalt Not Pivot. Forbid a target enemy unit from turning at all during their next movement. So that will prevent that unit to turn around the next turn. He does 5 points of damage. Now it is doubled because it's a flank attack, so that is 10 points of damage. Guess what? He has only 4 points left of life, and now that's right, because they were attacked on the flanks themselves earlier. So doing 10 points of damage, that totally destroys the shaman unit and the shaman himself. So the orcs no longer have magic. Off with their heads. And that, my friends, is how the salamanders do things. Alright, next is an orc move. And these goblin riders have, orc riders have now seen what happened to their brethren, what happened to the shaman, and they're not very pleased right now. So they do make an attack on the scorpion because they are still engaged. Their leader howls, and it is a flank attack. That scorpion only has 2 points of damage. They don't move, of course, and they don't have shooting. So they do 8 points of damage rolling a 4, and that destroys the scorpion and frees the goblin riders to make a run for it. But that can only happen on the next turn, so I don't think the orcs are going to make victory here. For those of you rooting for the orcs, I'm sorry. Yeah, that completes turn 11. Sorry, I had to count for a little bit. There are 4 turns left. And now we are in turn 12. These guys have been fighting all day, not really doing much damage on each other. So the lizardman unit is going to attack, strike. It is a frontal strike, so he rolls a 6. But because of shield wall, that orc infantry unit halves the damage, and that was infantry 1. So they take 3 damage instead of 6, leaving them with 10. So it was starting to get them down a little bit. But again, this combat has been going back and forth, back and forth. Lizardmen doing their jobs of holding the orc infantry at bay. So in this time period, units can only pivot 45 degrees. Unless, of course, I make some kind of a special ability against that. But so the leader turns, and then he decides to move. Even if it doesn't get him very far. So he rolls a 6. Basically, just stays there. And it's too bad he can't get out of that edge. He's going to have to do another wheel, another pivot to try and head down here. And they can't go into forest this time period as well. My infantry is also going to pivot. And they pivot 45 degrees. Their leader gives them the snarl. So he orders them, he sees the intention of the orcs. He doesn't want them to kind of get the flank. And he knows they're desperate. So he just moves an inch forward out of the way of the big dude there. So that move now begins turn 12. And now it is an orc unit that moves. And we're going to take this central combat again. And the orc infantry gets to strike back and see if they can do any damage to the lizards. Now remember, the orcs have lost their magic. They're not in a good start here. So they roll 5. And shield wall will reduce that number to a 3. And that means that those lizardmen now have 10 points of damage left. And they are equal to their target there, and that combat just keeps dragging on because both units are matched well together, and yeah, so they're just banging away with their swords and shields. All right, and that was the Orc turn, and now going to a Lizard Man turn. And now I'm just gonna pivot this dude 45 degrees, and he's gonna see what kind of havoc he can wreak. And that ends. That was actually turn 12 had ended with a Orc infantry retaliation, and now it is turn 13. And we have 2 turns left, and I mean, they really aren't. The Orcs are really not gonna have victory this game. All right, and so goblins with their pivoting ability get to wield around. Skirmisher goblins, and they do a full pivot, and then exit the board. And so the goblin skirmishers are out the board and safe, and it looks like everybody has moved. Yes, everybody has moved, so let's clear all of the markers. It does have a heal spell, which can be cast on self or on a unit within 6 inches, and that unit regains 4 previously lost hits. And so looking into my they only have 1 point of damage, so obviously it can't go over the initial hits that they have. So I think I'm going to hold on to that because they don't have very much spells. I mean, the game is almost ending, and that's it. That's going to be their turn. They don't have a hand-to-hand combat turn, so they're just going to end their turn there. He's going to be stubborn and hold the river, maintain the protection of the river. So now it is an Orc turn, and the Wolf leader, the only cavalry unit left on the table, the leader sees no real gain in attacking. So he pivots 45 degrees. And they move as far as they can, which is 6 inches past their enemy. But he knows in his mind that he's really not gonna make it. So that's pretty much the end of that turn. Alright, so that began turn 13. Now we're gonna end turn 13 with a Lizard Man move. This unit is given the order to pivot 45 degrees. And again, units are not very trained this time period, and so he's going to move. Don't quite make the distance, but it is enough to frighten the Orcs. Now they're going to try and make it around the northern wood here. Okay, this forest, they're going to try and make it around. There's a little space back there, so I'm going to allow it so they can go around this forest. They have to go all the way around because of their inability to go into forests this time period. They probably have some kind of belief or something, or just aren't able to negotiate with that terrain. So that ends turn 13. We begin turn 14, and there is 1 turn left in this game. So those Orcs get to move, and basically they're really not going to get very far. That's going to be priority. So they move and they wield, and that's the end of the Orc turn. We're going to give my Lizardmen another turn here, and that will end turn 14, begin turn 15. So let's see, in the road, the combat continues. Lizardmen strike with a 4, and that damage is halved by shield wall. So that's 2, and that Orc unit now has 8 points of life left. We're going to retaliate with the Orcs. That ends their turn. begins turn 15. And folks, I'm just going to end the game here because really there's nothing more that can be done. Just battering each other on that road, and that lizardman unit successfully just retained the lizardmen, right, the orcs right there, just blocked that road and didn't let them go through. So it was a good idea to have that infantry unit in the middle of the road. And a very, very interesting fantasy game with these rules. I really like it. I'll have to tweak things a little bit with all the stuff I've learned with this game. I was taking notes in between clips to see what are some of the things I might change. But I do want to say that I don't want to change too much. I really want to hold on to the actual mechanics of this game, not really change too much, and just, a few more, maybe a couple of changes, tweaks to the magic, to the time periods, and maybe a couple of faction tweaks, racial tweaks for some of the fantasy races, like I did with the Goblin Skirmishers. They're able to pivot full. They can turn around if they want to. They're a little bit more, have a little bit more dexterity than other units. But otherwise keep the rules of the game the way they are, and the rules of the time periods especially. I especially don't want to change those too much, because I think that's where the real flavor of this game comes in. It's those time periods and how different troops acted and reacted during those time periods. All right. Mat, this new mat was made out of printer paper actually, and just textured it a little bit and painted it with my airbrush, and then made the specialized terrain that you see there, the forest. So you may see more of these. I'm going to be making more of these mats. This is a very old technique that I used in my war games and role-playing games in the past. Thank you, folks, for joining me in this experiment. I hope you enjoyed it. I really did. I really, really like this rule set, and I think I will apply it in some future fantasy games. So we're going to keep exploring the different time periods and the spells. Maybe I'll tweak those a little bit. Maybe some will be less powerful. I do like the idea that when a spell is used, that's it. It's used up, and then whatever you have remaining in your spell pool, that's what you have left. So eventually that shaman is going to exhaust his ability to do magic, and he's just going to become another infantryman without a shield and only a staff or a dagger to defend himself with. So there you go, folks. We'll talk very soon, and now it's time to edit this game because I'm very behind this week. Thank you, folks, and join us in our next game when I face Julie in Oathmark, and that's going to be a 2-player game. Have a great one, folks.